You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 256 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Roger Phipps. And on this week's show, transfers galore, facilities expostulation, preseason all-conference team debate, all sports catch-up, story time. We welcome Jeff Allen to talk UCF and the rest of the AAC, the Tijuana Flats hot take of the week, news and notes, and of course, your questions on Ask Knightline.
Alrighty, well, it's been a few weeks since we have done one of these shows, but we have quite a bit to talk about, so that's good. We'll start off with Ask Knightline. Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. All right, I was a little late getting the Ask Knightline plea for questions out, but you guys totally came through, like absolutely came through. I really appreciate it. We have a ton of questions. We're going to start off with Chad at Chad UCF. He wants us to talk about softball pitcher Aaliyah White's legacy. She was awesome, one of our all-time best players. Yeah, absolutely incredible player. This week it didn't work out for them this season, didn't work out for them as well as we had hoped because they are out of the tournament, but they did pretty well. They had a great season, but without Aaliyah White, it wouldn't have been possible the last couple of years. And I think that she absolutely is one of our best all-time players. Roger?
Yeah, I agree with you there. First of all, I know that Chad recently had a birthday, so shout out to you for that. Happy birthday, man. Aaliyah White, she's got all kinds of records for UCF. She's earned her 99th win against Kennesaw State, which in softball, having a 99th win is huge. And I believe she leads UCF in wins. And she's also just the third UCF pitcher to ever throw a shutout in the tournament. So, I can't say enough. The 1-2 punch between Aaliyah White and Gianna Mancha has worked out really, really well. But Aaliyah White, when she came on the scene and she started pitching, everybody knew that she was going to be great. And she's a record holder at UCF. So, this program has been very successful, and with her grabbing those records and us having several good pitchers over the years, it's a tip of the cap to her and her career and how successful she's been. So, congratulations, Aaliyah White. Very, very proud of what she's done, and she should be very proud of what she's done as well.
Absolutely, yeah. She will most likely be in the UCF Hall of Fame one of these days, I would think.
Yeah, with all the records she holds, I don't see how she couldn't be.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Okay, on to 2 letters, 2 words. This is a question that he posted. Will Johnson be another Notre Dame transfer or bust for UCF? And he's talking about Jordan Johnson coming from Notre Dame. He's the guy we've been talking about, a 5-star transfer wide receiver from Notre Dame. It's yet to be seen, obviously, but I would hope that he's not another bust, because we have had a couple of busts. Well, at least one that I consider a bust. I think the quarterback that we had, and I can't think of his name right now because he was a bust. What was the guy's name?
Brandon Wimbush.
Wimbush, yeah. That was a weird situation, and he absolutely did turn out to be a bust. It was all kinds of, big stuff was made of that in the beginning when he came here. Oh my God, Brandon Wimbush is coming to UCF, blah, blah, blah. He was kind of a bust at Notre Dame as well, though, if you think about it. So, he came to UCF after losing his job at Notre Dame. So, Parker
Navarre.
I can't think of anybody's names. Boudreaux, yeah. Parker Boudreaux. He obviously had his sights set on different things besides football. So I don't know if I would call him a bust. He had injuries in football. The last season he was completely out, I believe, with a concussion or something like that.
Correct.
I don't know if he would be considered a complete bust. He did play some games. Maybe wasn't, what we thought. I don't know how highly regarded he was coming out of Notre Dame, though, or even going into Notre Dame. I don't think he was a 5-star player like this guy was.
He was a 4. Yeah, okay. He was a 4-star.
Yeah, he wasn't a 5-star like this guy was, though. So I think this guy, has the ability to shine here at UCF with our receiving core being quite young and quite unknown, to be honest with you, with what we actually have. So this guy could have a real chance of doing something special. So, I don't think he's going to be a bust. I hope not, anyway. That would be bad if we had another guy, especially really our highest, ranked transfer that we've probably ever had.
It is.
Well, it just depends on how you look at it, I guess. I'm sure somebody could argue that. But I hope that he's not a bust. We don't know yet, so we'll have to find out, I guess.
Yeah, for me, to your point, and Parker Boudreaux, you're absolutely right. He had a concussion that kept him out for most of the season, but he was in the 2 deep when he played the previous season. He was expected to compete for the his starting position. So I wouldn't count him as a bust either. Brandon Wimbush, yep, I totally would count him as a bust. And, when it comes to this guy, and I'll save some of this because I talk about him a little bit in our transfer discussion a little bit later on. But let me put it to you this way. This guy was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. Okay. Everybody wanted him. He has all the tools to be successful. And the difference between Brandon Wimbush and him is that Brandon Wimbush was the starter, got beat out by Ian Book, and he had matured all the way. He was going to be as good as he was going to get. Whereas this guy has not played much. He's just now, starting to hit his stride and get his feet wet in major college football. And his physical tools, he hasn't reached his maturity yet. And both Coach Kelly and Ian Book had mentioned the progress he'd made and how well he was doing in this year's spring. So when you're looking at that, to me, the ceiling is much higher for him because he hadn't developed yet. And it's a whole lot different when you're talking about a freshman 5-star coming in, competing at Notre Dame, than a former 4-star / 5-star quarterback who peaked at Notre Dame and then transferred here. So to me, yet to be seen, but I have a feeling he's got plenty of time to grow into that leader in that receiving core that he could be.
All righty. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I can't wait to see the guy. I can't wait to see all these transfers that we have, and we're going to talk way more about the transfers later on. So very excited. We've got a couple more questions, I think, that deal with this as well, because this is what everybody wants to know. At UCF Guy 23 actually has 3 questions. So that's fine. We'll do that. I just appreciate everybody coming in late and getting the questions in. Really appreciate it. So we'll do 3. I don't care. So this is his first question. If the Boise State game is Thursday or Friday night, how do you think attendance will be affected versus Saturday? Hey, this is the very first opening game of the season that is a huge, huge season. The start of the Gus Bus seasons, all these transfers that we want to see, everything Boise against UCF, which a lot of fans have wanted to see. I don't think it hurts at all, to be honest with you. I would much rather have this on a Thursday or a Friday night than Saturday at noon, first of all. But I think Thursday, Friday night, whatever it is, even if it's on a Saturday, I think it's up in the air really when this game is, but we'll find out soon. I don't see that attendance is affected any more than it normally would be on a Thursday or Friday night game, I guess. But it being the opening game and a Thursday or a Friday night, I think it's going to be packed. I think the bounce house is going to be absolutely crazy. Everybody really wants to go see some football. All these people that didn't see football at all last year in person, everybody wants to come out. This is the time for them to do it. It's just, it's exciting. We haven't had something like this in a long time. Yes, we've had new coaches, all that, but this is different. I just feel something completely different. This is 2021, first of all, and I just think that this game is going to be insane. So, and then the game itself, Boise versus UCF, who doesn't want to see that? I think that is exciting, and we'll be able to, see how Boise and UCF match up against each other. It's been talked about for a long time. I believe that a bunch of Boise fans will be here as well. So as many tickets as they can get, I would imagine that they would get.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of what I would say. I will say this. I think on our Thursday and Friday season openers, I think we're undefeated. So that bodes well for us. And I haven't had time to check
Hopefully
that.
You just didn't jinx us.
I'm just saying I didn't predict anything. I just said that so far we've been undefeated, and I haven't had a chance to check this yet because we try to do these off the cuff so you get our real responses. But that being said, Thursday and Friday nights have always been strong at the Bounce House for season openers, so I don't expect any less. I agree with you, Andrew. I think there's a lot of pent up demand. The tailgating will be cut short, which kind of sucks because this is a big game. But a Thursday or Friday night in Orlando, a night game in August, I think people will come out for that, and especially the opponent. It's not just this pent-up energy from COVID, but I think everybody will want to be there. Everybody will want to be together. Hopefully, we can maintain the no masks on campus, which I think we will. So you get the full experience. We haven't had that in a year and a half. So I expect to be loud. I expect to be proud. I expect Knight Nation to make it a living hell for Boise State. And can't wait to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the next question from UCF Guy 23. What was your impression of the yard sale? I was disappointed with the lack of ability of certain uniform items. The yard sale, I guess, was a sale that UCF had a couple of weeks ago or maybe more with used equipment and for the collectors and all that stuff. I don't go to things like that personally. I'm not a collector of stuff. I mean, I have certain things that more media things I think that I have than anything else, that I'm just not a guy that goes out and buys stuff like that. So my impression of it was that I didn't go. And that's the honest truth. I think I went the very first time they ever did it, just because I think it was before a game or something like that. It was in the indoor practice facility. I kind of walked through there, but I was kind of late walking through there as well, so there wasn't a bunch of stuff. I know a lot of people enjoy this and have the money to spend on that stuff, but I never do. So I guess that was my impression of it.
Well, unfortunately, by virtue of me being in Santa Rosa Beach, I was not able to attend as well. However, I do want to send a quick shout out to Daryl, who went shopping on my behalf. He was my secret shopper. Here's what you have to remember, folks. A lot of the good stuff, and there was good stuff, was taken by the shareholder society folks. They get in there first and they get their pick of the litter, right? So whatever they want, they get there. And I think it's like an hour or 2 hours beforehand, they get to go through all the stuff and pick out the best stuff. That being said, there were more helmets on display and a variety of helmets on display than at any other yard sale. So if you wanted a helmet, this was the one to go to because they were game-worn helmets. In fact, I think they were still trying to sell some. I wanted to get one this year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I did get a jersey this year. So, I'm not sure if when you got there, UCF guy 23, if it had already been picked through or what happened there. But the pictures I saw, and this was a fellow Cabana member that went shopping for me, which I would have, because I'm in the Cabana, and he would have gotten in a little bit earlier than the regular season ticket holders. There was a lot of variety there, and there were a lot of people there, and there were a lot of people purchasing. But if you wanted a helmet, this was the year to go.
Okay. Well, I don't know what UCF guy 23 was trying to get, but it sounds like, unfortunately, he was disappointed. So, I don't know. Try to get out there earlier or something the next time. And hopefully you get what you want. So,
unfortunately, it's part of the part of being a higher donor class does get you certain perks, and one of that is being out there. And I don't know what donor level he is, but the shareholder society folks, I mean, absolutely get the best stuff every time. Whether they're talking about the Space Game uniforms, they get those as a fixed price when they're sold, versus everybody else who has to compete for them.
I guess that's more of a reason to be a shareholder, I guess.
Exactly. If you can afford that.
If you can afford to do it, if especially if something like this is something that you want to do and be able to get, I guess that's more reason for people to do that. So, all right. His next question is, with all these transfers, what happens to the typical player that thought they were a 2 or a 3 in the depth chart and may now be a 4th or a 5th and may get no sniff at playing this season? How spiteful does it make a player, or does it drive them to play harder? Well, you'll see some of these guys transfer out as well. And I think that's, what you're going to see even more than this season. You're going to see a lot of those guys as soon as these guys step on campus, the transfers, those other guys are going to be out of here, or before in the spring. I would think you saw some guys enter the transfer portal at that point. This is going to be something that is a regular thing now, and it's going to be very, very different than you're used to seeing college football. This is free agency of college football, period. I don't care what anybody wants to call it. It's free agency, especially all the being able to transfer within your conference, which is new for a lot of conferences. The more they open this up, the more movement there's going to be, and the more quote-unquote free agency there's going to be. So if you're a 2 or a 3 on a depth chart, maybe a 4th or a 5th, it's time to go and go someplace else. Transfer just like the rest of these guys did, the ones that are coming in, and go get your spot someplace else. There's plenty of other football teams to go to, unfortunately. But there are some, though. And I don't know if it would really make people spiteful. I think that it would absolutely make them play harder, though. The competition breeds greatness. The more competition you have, the better competition you have, the better that you could be. So if it was me in that situation, I would love to compete, and I would make myself better to see if I could unseat one of these guys. If it didn't happen, this year or whatever, then I may start thinking about wanting to transfer and going someplace else. And maybe getting a better chance of someplace that you can compete a little bit more. It's also going to bring us better players. So bringing us better players to compete with the players that, may have been a fourth or a fifth, it's good because we're gonna get rid of some of those guys that are taking up roster positions, and get better players in the return. Hopefully.
So I tend to agree with all of that, and I hate to say that way because obviously
because I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you are right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think it's going to depend on the position group too. From what I understand, we may be looking at multiple defenses, including maybe a 4-2-5. Gus has run 5 defensive backs in the past, so if you've got 5, if you're 5th on the depth chart, you're probably going to get some playing time, so it doesn't really impact you as much. However, if you're on the 5th on the running back chart, depth chart, you probably won't get to play.
Or if you're 5th on a quarterback chart.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, how spiteful does it make a play? I don't know, but guys, this is something that we have that we don't think of ourselves as. UCF is no longer Conference USA UCF, right? We are operating, especially now with Gus's mindset, more like a P5 FSU type program. Right, we're bringing in higher caliber, and it's giving us access.
I would say we're higher caliber than that, personally.
No, but I mean
FSU, but
I get that. I mean, from performance standpoint, yes. What I'm talking about is how they roll players in and out, and and being able to upgrade. What the transfer portal has done for us as a team has allowed us to upgrade our recruiting. It's almost like we went out and got a class of 4 or 5-star recruits that was a top 25 or top 40 class, but we're just getting them later or a year later, right? So when we look at it from that perspective, what you're seeing is the turnover in what the past recruiting was been to what the current recruiting will be. And so by doing that, if it's via the transfer portal, these guys are no longer our brand. Our football program is at a higher level than some of the folks that would have come here before. So if we're bringing these 4 and 5 stars in, all you're seeing is the upgrade of the program. And unfortunately, some of these guys will transfer. They will have to transfer. And that's okay. We have to start. We love the story of Richie Grant, who's the 2-star that comes in, works hard, busts his butt, and is a 3rd rounder in the NFL, right? However, the reality is our program is now 4 and 5 stars. Mike Hughes coming in, those types of folks that are going to come in. It's a different narrative and a different experience for the UCF fan who's used to diamond mining, but we're at a different level as a program, and we have to recognize that. So will some of them be upset? Sure. They thought they had an opportunity at a name brand school, and they may have to go to a lower brand school. Will those that come in and try to play harder? Yeah, I'm sure some of them will. But at the end of the day, they now have the opportunity, which they didn't have before, to transfer without a penalty one time in their careers. So you will see more and more of them transfer as more and more transfer in.
Yeah, that's free agency. I mean, there's no better definition of free agency than this in college football. So
Agreed.
Get used to it. It's just what's going to happen from now on, unless they decide that they don't want to do this anymore. But I don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's even going to get more and more. You're going to see it's going to be hard to keep track, honestly, I think, of where players are at, because, you're going to see players that you saw when they were recruited and you never saw them during a season. And then the next year, they're not going to be on the team at all anymore. So.
Well, what it might do is it might negatively impact, and here's another wrinkle to kind of think about, is the incoming high school players that are coming in. If they're not losing a year of eligibility when they transfer, and they're able to transfer, those are spots that high school guys would be able to get when they come in the fresh recruiting class every year. So I think there's actually going to be, and as more guys transfer and more teams utilize the transfer portal for 7, 8 spots, that means there's less spots for these high school players to have an opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that trickle-down effect, because it's actually going to hurt the existing high school players more than I think the folks that are already in the system.
Yeah, they could. I mean, this is something that could happen for sure. So we'll see how this all works out. I mean, there's good parts and bad parts. You have to weigh both sides of it, I guess, and see what comes out in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see. We've heard about this kind of happening for the last few years, and it's definitely happening a lot more now, especially with the COVID year that everybody got. So there's players that should be gone out of college football at this point that are transferring. So we'll see the ripple effect that it has for years to come. Great questions. Thank you very much. Down to now to Brian W. Peterson, who pretty much always asks a question. I really appreciate that. Does Dylan go to the NFL this year, or if he has another good season, or should we expect him back for a senior year?
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to say what I want and what I think will happen. I think he stays, personally. I think he stays and plays his senior year. And that's what I want to happen as well. So I'm trying to kind of will that. But I really do. I just think that he's the type of guy, he's undersized, obviously. You still don't see a lot of undersized quarterbacks in the NFL. There's a few that are starting to do really well, but you still don't see a ton of them. So if that's what he really wants to do, I think it's better to play out that senior year, pad the stats, have that extra year to show what you can do in college football and, make even more of an impression. Although then some will argue, well, what if he gets hurt his senior year? Well, what if he gets hurt his junior year? It's the same thing. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to say I think he'll be back. It's my hot take, I guess. I think that he will be back for his senior year, personally.
All right. So, Brian, thank you, as always, for asking a question, but don't put that juju on me, man. That being said, does Dylan go to the NFL this year? I think a lot of that has to do with how he grades out, man. Honestly, it's going to be a new system. He'll have some new opportunities. He'll have some better opportunities than he had in the previous offense to get some more higher percentage throws. He'll show the fact, because listen, in the NFL, they're not just going to allow you to throw bombs all day, right? There's stuff underneath. They're going to go over the top. They're going to have crossing routes. They're going to have all these kinds of things. And he's really only done, and he's only been out of center. He's not been under center very much. So he needs to be able to show he has the ability to make. I
think you're going to see that this year, though, as well.
Yeah,
because we saw that in the spring with him under center a couple times. So you're going to see that a little bit more.
Yeah, and he's going to run more, too, which I think which will help. And he'll have some tight ends, and he'll have a system that's set up to go across the middle and short throws and options and a bunch of different things. Where I was going with that is basically – he's got to make the most of his opportunity this year. If he doesn't pick up the offenses quickly, or the rest of the team doesn't jive or gel quickly until midseason, etc., his numbers might be affected. His numbers are going to be different than they are last year. Now, is that the average number of yards per pass? Is it whatever statistic you want to throw out there? He had a touchdown to interception ratio, which was insane, but he's got new throws that he's learning, new angles he's going to have to throw. Gus has said he did well in spring doing that, but now he's got to do it against Division I teams. So if he struggles a little bit with that, or he isn't happy with that, and the grade isn't where he needs it to be, I think he stays. Otherwise, honestly, if he does well this year, the only thing really keeping him here would be the fellow Hawaiian players that he's brought in, like Titus, some of the offensive line guys that are coming in that he knew. So he might want to stick around for sentimental reasons for that, to play another year together. But if he grades out high enough and he has the ability to show his stuff and has a successful year that we know he's capable of, I think he goes.
Okay. Well, the other thing that we have to think about with this, and it's something that we don't want to happen, but there's also what we just talked about with the last question. The transfer portal is big, and it's a much bigger deal. So that could happen as well. I would hate for that to happen. I hope that doesn't happen, but it possibly could. So could choose to play that senior year someplace else. possibly. Just like his other buddy from Hawaii is doing now, which that's another story. But anyway, still, it's a possibility. Hopefully he plays and has a great season and wants to stick around and do it one more time. Hopefully. That's what I'm putting my money on. Anyway, Joe Poala, at Joe Poala on Twitter. How many transfer portal players will end up starting day one and which ones? Well, we obviously don't know the answer to that question because we're not psychic, but we'll give it our best shot. So, I mean, obviously, I think there's some on the defense Big Cat Bryant, I don't see anybody that's on our current roster getting in his way, to be honest with you. I think most of these receivers will have a shot because, we really have one starting wide receiver at this point. So I think all three of the wide receiver transfers could really have a good chance of playing from day one. I think both of the running backs have a great chance of playing from the start. Let's see. The kicker has a really good chance for Casey Riker from App State, especially if on the practice field he is really good at kicking field goals, which our guy that we have now is not so great at kicking field goals. I think you could see our guy maybe be a kickoff guy and this guy kicking the field goals. I think Bryson Armstrong has a good chance as well. I think this Marco Domino or Demio or whatever the heck his name is, I think he probably has a good chance with a young secondary. I think you could see any of these guys and maybe all of these guys be out there and starting from day one. I really think the running backs, I think those are the ones that everybody's going to be surprised by. I think Mark Anthony Richards is going to be the guy from the start. And Bowser will be in there in a different role, obviously, than a starting running back. But a guy that is in every game and does like the short yardage and who knows what else, because he can catch out of the backfield. I think these guys are a lot of these guys are different players than we have on the team. You know what I'm saying? Quality-wise. And that's why they're coming here. That's why Gus went after all these guys, because he saw stuff that was lacking in what we have, and these are the guys that he kind of handpicked and begged to come here probably. You know what I'm saying? I know some of them obviously followed him, but they followed him for a reason. He's very familiar with these guys. These guys are his guys, especially the guys that are coming straight from Auburn. They're the guys that he recruited. These are his guys, and you've seen this with every other coaching staff. They want to play their guys before they play somebody else's guys that they didn't recruit. So I think most of these guys have a chance to play, especially the running backs, the wide receivers. Big Cat Bryant, I don't think is even a question. And the kicker, to be honest with you. So that's my opinion on that.
All right. I'll run through these real quick just off a list, and I'll just say yay or nay and why. So first one on my list, Brandon Johnson. Remember, he was the Tennessee transfer. He enrolled in January. He was actually from the Heupel era, but he is a transfer, so I'm going to include him on this list. He did really, really well during the spring and was the most polished receiver at that time. I do think, and remember, we're saying starting day one. So starting day one, since he had the benefit of the spring, I think he will start day one. I think he's performed well enough to do that. Mark Anthony Richards from Auburn, I do think he has an opportunity to start from day one. He knows Gus's system. He's a little bit bigger back, and I think he does well. So that's two on my list. Isaiah Bowser. From Northwestern. I also think he could start because we're in Gus's system. He uses the tight ends to block on the ends of the line.
Fullback. He's a running back.
Yeah.
Bowser. You said
no. I know that. What I'm saying is that in he uses the tight ends differently than what Heupel did. Heupel used to bring the tight end back as a blocker, almost like a fullback position. So the tight ends will go out to the flat, or they'll run, or they'll
I see what
block.
you're saying now.
Yeah,
I see. I thought you were thinking that he was a tight end for some reason.
No. I know he's a running back. So I think because of that, we don't really have another fullback that we can throw out there. I think he and Gus's system likes to run up the middle with counters and everything else. So I absolutely think that he will be back there.
You're going to see that guy on third down, I guarantee it. And the goal line.
Oh, absolutely. Goal line situations every time.
He is a bowling ball, and they're going to use him as that.
Yep. So I see 3 so far. Wide receiver Nate Craig Myers, I don't think he will start. He hasn't shown enough at Colorado State or Auburn for me to think that he will break the starting lineup.
We've said for a while, though, that he's probably here for leadership. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
So defensive lineman Big Cat Bryant, absolutely think he will start. That's 4. Defensive tackle Ricky Barber Jr. Now, defensive tackle is an interesting position. I think personally, he's getting here a little bit later. We actually have a couple of solid defensive tackles. So I think he won't start on day 1. So that's the operative word in your question. So I don't think that's the case. I don't think Hercule Latu from BYU will either. I do think Riker Casey from App State, that's the kicker.
Latu can play multiple positions, though. He can either be a defensive end or a linebacker.
Yeah, but I'd expect him to be a safety more than anything else. I expect Gus to... Yeah.
Latu?
He's also got some experience playing safety as well when he was in college. So he's a bigger guy. I could see him doing that. Apparently, he's pretty fast. I don't see him playing defensive end, not with the people that we have. And as far as linebacker is concerned, I think we have other people that are better. I think he was brought in for depth more than anything else.
He's 6'3", 235 pounds, though. I don't see him playing.
Yeah, then he's not playing safety. I don't know why I was thinking that. Okay. But either way, he's either going to be linebacker or maybe he could be like the Shaquem Griffin type of player. I know that Gus had said he's going to play multiples, but I'm seeing us play, or I've heard that we're going to throw in a 4-2-5, which would be an interesting mix. So I think he's a depth player. I don't think he starts day 1. I do think Casey has an opportunity to do that. Jordan Johnson will not start day 1. If you listen to the radio show, I said he was going to start in the 7th game, just as a reminder, the 7th game. So that's a little inside joke for those of you that listen to the radio show.
Okay.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm hanging on my 7th game.
You don't bring in a 5-star wide receiver to not let him play immediately, a grad transfer. I don't think. You just don't.
I disagree.
Who else is going to be better than him? Who else is going to be better than the 5-star grad transfer?
When we get to the transfer section, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think that. But for right now, I'm going to say that he is not going to start day 1. Linebacker Bryson Armstrong, I think he's also a depth player. I think we've got
a safety.
Yeah, and that could be too. I mean, he's pretty quick. I think he's like, 5'11", 205 or something like that? Strong safety, maybe?
I don't know. I can look real quick, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's 5'11", 205. Let me see. I've got it written down here.
5'11", 205, yeah.
Yep. So I think, if anything, strong safety if he's going to play safety position. But we've got some safeties back there that were pretty good. So I'm not going to say he's going to start either. Defensive back Marco Dalmio, I don't know when he gets here to say whether he plays on day 1. But he will definitely play. He's coming from Auburn, so he should be. Well, no, we got Gibbs from elsewhere. So I don't know. It depends on the scheme, if the schemes are similar or not. I'm going to say he has a better chance or a stronger chance to play from day 1. So if I were to do the math, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have a 6 out of the transfers have a solid chance on playing day 1.
Out of 11 or 12?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I mean, we kind of agree, but disagree in some.
But think about it. If they do, if 6 out of 11 start, I mean, that's a heck of a transfer class.
I know, but transfers are a completely different thing, and they're brought in to do a very specific thing, I think. And you're going to see. I think that Gus is going to use these guys. He did not talk these guys into coming here for no reason, especially the grad transfer type guys, because this is their last shot. This is their last attempt. So if these guys are half of what we think they are, I think these guys have a very, very good chance, most of them, actually, to start. So we shall see. But, I mean, after the first game, we will go back and revisit this. Mark this down, Roger, since you're the one that does the notes. Put a note someplace that we need to go back and revisit this, who played in Game 1.
All right, I'll put it in our notes.
In Game 1. I think it'll be very interesting to see. Great question, by the way. Thank you very much for asking the questions. That does it for Ask Knightline, and we will be right back after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, we're back. Thank you for sticking around. And I guess, you know what? We had a lot of transfer talk in that last segment, and especially in that last question where we were, talking about who was going to start and who wasn't going to start. So I think we should kind of continue with that because we obviously have some differing opinions on some of these guys, which could make it kind of fun. So let's just kind of go through there, especially with guys. I don't even know how many people know about this defensive back transferring from Auburn at Auburn. I don't know what I was saying there. But anyway, whatever. I'm not going to edit this. I don't edit anymore. We just we just do this like it's live. Nowadays.
Well, you don't do the ums anymore, so you really don't have to edit.
I still do the ums, but I just don't edit them out. You should hear the radio show if you don't listen to that. I all the time. It drives me crazy still. I don't care anymore, though. I really don't. It's the way that I talk, and if you don't like it, don't listen. So,
having listened since day one, I can tell you with 100% certainty you don't say the ums nearly like you used to.
I do on the radio show, I've noticed, though, because sometimes I'm a little bit more nervous doing the radio show. It's a little different. So, yeah. I do say, a lot.
Well, you are producing at the same time, too. I mean, that's the other thing.
There's a lot going on all this stuff, especially with us in two different places and all that. So, and I'm always trying to look stuff up. But I do try to not say it nearly as much. That was the very first bad comment that somebody ever gave me, by the way. Or the very first criticism that somebody gave me. I think it was on UCFsports.com in the dungeon. Somebody was like, that was basically all they said. And it was the first episode of a podcast that I'd ever done, number one. But it really made a huge impression on me. Thank you very much for whoever gave me nightmares and screwed up my confidence a lot. Really appreciate it. But anyway.
Wow.
Well, no,
going deep here tonight,
no,
folks.
it's true. It's true. That's the story. So I'm going to tell you. That's why the ums, and I'd edited them out for a long time, and finally I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care. The time that I was spending on editing was longer than the show actually took. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if people know. You have to go back and, you do this show for 2 hours or 3 hours to make an hour show or whatever. And then it takes forever to go back and edit out all these little ums and everything else. And I don't think people want perfect. I think they want real. And that's what I've learned through all this, I guess, is that people want real. So that's what it is. It's even more real now because I don't really edit anything. I will stop with this show. We will stop and maybe back up, especially if I say something that maybe I shouldn't say. We'll do.
That happens from time to time.
Or every once in a while, I'll just be talking and not realize that I'm trying to keep it clean, and then I'll and I'll go back and edit stuff like that. I have put a beep in once or twice before because I wanted the point to still be made.
I mean, if you do look on Apple, we are shown our status is a clean show. So I think you've done a pretty good job at that.
I've always tried to make it that way because I wanted people's kids to be able to listen to the show as well. I wanted them to be able to listen to it in front of their kids. In fact, all the rest of the shows on the Knightline Sports Network, that has been a requirement that there is no cussing on there. And there's been a couple things that have slipped through, guests, and I wanted them to make their point, and I've let a couple things slip through, but I don't talk like that in real life. I don't talk nearly as clean as I do. In fact, every other word sometimes is a word that we can't do on the radio or whatever. So I really try and have to,
I mean, you should hear him say cojones all the time. I mean, it just comes out like.
And I got beeped on the radio. If you don't listen to the radio show, I got beeped for saying cojones, and they wouldn't have beeped me if I said balls. So yeah, I don't know. It was a weird deal, and we got to the bottom of that, and they've told me I can say cojones. It was a mistake by the producer there, and everything else. But you can say cojones on the radio, and you can say balls on the radio. So
guys, what you're learning is every once in a while I'll throw in jokes, or Andrew will throw in jokes that date back to the radio show. So it's kind of like what they did with the Marvel series.
If you don't listen, you should, because it's a really good show. I mean,
and you'll get inside jokes from back and forth between the two.
I think most people are listening now to both. Maybe not live to the radio show, but I see the stats for the replay of it that we do on this feed. And I think most people listen to it. So I appreciate that, by the way. I do it for you guys. It's not for my health and not for my sanity for sure. So do it for you guys. All right. So for you guys, let's continue this and not talk about all this other crap. Go ahead, Roger. I know that this was kind of your thing you wanted to...
So I wanted to talk a little bit. Obviously we've been off the air for a little bit of time, and a lot has happened. So you heard us reference the transfers, and I wanted to go in a little more detail on some of these transfers. So we have 3 to talk about since the last time our show happened. We actually have some basketball ones as well, but we'll start with football. Then the first one is wide receiver Jordan Johnson. He was a 5-star, and he went to Notre Dame. He was a top 10 receiver in his high school class. He's 6'2", 195 pounds. Last year at Notre Dame, he only played in 2 games. He had 2 penalties in those games, and he missed some assignments, and Brian Kelly basically benched him for the rest of the season. For those of you that don't know anything about Brian Kelly, he does have a complicated system, and he has a penchant for playing senior wide receivers. So when you go to Notre Dame, he has a tendency, and it's almost like George O'Leary, where he would give seniority a leg up sometimes versus talent. One of the big issues that Jordan had was making the adjustment in the classroom and off the field to Notre Dame. But Brian Kelly came out and Ian Book both came out. He was doing great in the classroom. He really turned it around. He knew the playbook when he came in for the spring game, played really, really well. So, he's got the tools, he's got the size, he's got the speed, and he's going to be a really, really good pickup. The question is how fast does he develop into that system? And that's exactly why I said for Jordan Johnson, I don't believe he'll be a day one starter. And Andrew and I actually had a sidebar conversation about this in the break. That being said, he's going to be a good one for us. And he was a freshman last year, so he has all four to play because last year was a COVID year. So he won't, he won't take a penalty for that. So I'm excited about him.
Well, I say again that I think that he picks up this offense. It's a much easier offense to work in, and I believe that he is far and above most of the players on our team at wide receiver. So I think that he will be in there, and we actually have a little wager on this. So we will revisit that after the first game, obviously. We're going to go through that entire list that we talked about before with the last Ask Knightline question and go through and see how right we were about that. So,
all right.
I'm excited to see this guy, especially with the size, because we do not have a lot of size at wide receiver of this guy's size. Jay Flash is extremely small wide receiver, by the way. And I think that you need a big wide receiver like this. You need a Gabe Davis type size guy, and this guy is it. He's even a little bit bigger, I believe. So that's why I think that he has a great chance.
No, I agree with that. I do think you need someone who can play against a tall defensive back, and you saw that in the BYU game. You need someone who can take the.
I'm not taking anything away from Jay Flash.
No, but I mean, there's size and there's vert, right? And if you've got someone who can play, or if you don't have an option, you can throw a 50-50 ball up, and you're playing against a 6'5'11", 6'1" defensive back. Unfortunately, he's disadvantaged when it comes to that. It just is. But he's got killer speed and good route running ability, and that's where he makes up for it. So if we can draw a safety or a couple of corners to one side of the field because of the threat of the 50-50 ball, that really opens things up for him to be able to maneuver.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Next on my list, we've got linebacker Bryson Armstrong. He is a Kennesaw State transfer. So first of all, if I didn't know about him and I was listening at home, I'd be scratching my head saying, okay, Gus is bringing in 5 stars. Why are we talking about a Kennesaw State transfer, which obviously everybody knows is an FCS level? He was the 2019 FCS Defensive Player of the Year. He holds almost every record for Kennesaw State for on defense. He's 5'11" and 205, so he's pretty stout and he's very quick, and he makes it to every play.
Extremely quick.
Yes, and that's one thing
like even
missed.
For FBS football. Don't write this guy off because he was an FCS player. Like, there are good players in the FCS. They just happened to go there. They didn't come. I mean, don't write this guy off because of that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, not only he was at the top of his game at the FCS level, he was a consensus All-American, Big South Defensive Player of the Year. Last year, he had 95 tackles as a linebacker, 12 tackles for a loss as a linebacker, 3.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. This guy has a nose for the football and is great for stopping the run, but at the same time has the speed to stay with wide receivers. He plays super hard nose and is really good at getting downhill. In his first year, he was the Jerry Rice National Freshman of the Year. And remember, Jerry Rice was also an FCS player before he made it to the NFL. And
not only that, though, the list of the accolades that he has from his freshman year, Phil Steele, FCS Freshman of the Year. Phil Steele, FCS Defensive Freshman of the Year. Not only defensive freshman, but did you hear what I said before? FCS Freshman of the Year. Like, I mean, the kid is insane as a football player. I mean, this is probably one of the hardest-nosed, just pure football players that we have now. I mean, this guy is going to be exciting, and I cannot wait to see this guy play at our level. I can't wait.
Yep. And then next, we've got the defensive back that you mentioned, Marco Domio. I'm not sure yet. He's pretty new, so I don't know how to pronounce it quite yet. You all know that we do so well with names. Actually, I would probably listen to the show just to see. I always get a chuckle with how bad we butcher these. But he's a former 4-star from Brenham, Texas, so 4-star player. He's 6'1", 175, which is good size for a defensive back. He went JUCO his first year, first 2 years, I think, actually. Then went to Auburn and now is coming to UCF. Supposedly UF was in the mix for him and was interested, and we got him over that. He was a top 5 JUCO prospect and was rated as a top 5 JUCO prospect last year by ESPN, coming out of JUCO and transferring into the FBS level. Last year he played a little sparingly and had just 8 tackles at Auburn, but he has 2 seasons left to play. He's very fast and very aggressive. So I think this is another good pickup for us for that defensive backfield.
Absolutely.
All right. And then, that brings you up to speed as far as football is concerned. We also had some good basketball news, so I kind of wanted to touch on that as well. Last time we talked, we didn't get to talk about the fact that Brandon Mahan was leaving. However, we did get 2 really, really big-time transfers. And so here's another exercise in me being able to say a name. Andrew tried it on the radio show. I'm going to try it here. I think he probably did a better job than I'm going to do, so apologize in advance. Sheikh Mbaki Diong from UNLV. He is a 6'11" senior forward, super highly touted. We were in the mix with FSU and Utah. They both wanted him. We ended up getting him. He was second in the Mountain West in blocks and was a captain for UNLV's team. And here's the big thing, guys.
UNLV is a basketball school, just so you all know, too, if you're not familiar with UNLV. They're definitely not a football school.
Nope. And, he adds a really important piece to our front court. So there's some depth that we needed there. If you remember last year, we didn't have as much. We struggled on the boards. And this guy was second in the Mountain West in blocks, which is going to help clog up those lanes for us. And at the same time, he's going to help us grab boards and help us with larger lineups. Last year, we had Jameel Reynolds, who is technically a forward at 6'10", but he was playing center. I expect big things out of him this year. And then we also had CJ Walker. Those were our 2 guys. And CJ Walker was a rebounding machine just because he can hop. He's got hops for days. But having another piece that's able to do that and block shots is going to really, really help us in the AAC. So he's a big get, guys. I can't say enough about him. And then our backcourt also got some help. We pulled in Taim Freeman from Indian Hills Community College. That's a top program in the country, folks. He's a 6'6" guard. He was NGCAA first team All-American, averaged 18.1 points per game last year, and then this is where I'm really, really excited. 7.3 rebounds per game as a guard. And he shot 52.2%. Now, he's not a 3-point threat, and he's definitely an attacking guard, which is why he's pulling in so many rebounds, because he's either going to attack or he's going to attack and kick. But he's also got a floater. So I'm really excited about this kid. It's going to be our backcourt is, I think, going to get an upgrade. Remember, we are getting some seniors back. Darius is back this year, but he's only back this year. So between Tony Johnson Jr. and a bunch of other folks. I think we're going to be in really, really good shape, and I'm excited about this kid.
All righty. Way too early to talk about basketball. Way, way too early. But that's fine because everybody's excited about these transfers. So, Brandon Mahan went into the transfer portal. We shall see. I think it's honestly when this freshman junior college guy came in, I think that's when Brandon Mahan decided that he was going into the transfer portal. So I think
the timing was certainly suspect.
I think one thing has to do with the other. So, So Brandon Mahan had a really weird year last year, very up and down. So, I mean, we saw what he could do in like the beginning of the season and really fell off during the middle of the season, then played a little bit at the end of the season fairly well, but not consistent at all. So hopefully he will find a good spot someplace else, and he probably will. So if not, he may be back. You never know. You can go into the transfer portal and come out. So I would not be shocked.
It's not a black hole?
It's not a black hole, yeah. Once you go in, you can always come out. We've seen that with football players as well, so you never know. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come back, to be honest with you. So,
well, Green did that too Matt Williams did that as well for Johnny Dawkins, because remember, he had all but transferred and then he came back. So You're absolutely right. He has the opportunity to come back for sure.
Okay, let's talk to Jeff Allen. We're talking to Jeff Allen that does the AAC report on the Knightline Sports Network. We're going to do a commercial here, and we'll be right back to talk to him about UCF stuff and AAC stuff all together in one shot. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, please welcome the man with his finger on the pulse of the AAC. Nobody does it better than Jeff Allen, host of the AAC report on the Knightline Sports Network. Doing a great job, by the way. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you guys. And we've had a pretty busy spring season with all the schedule changes because of COVID. So it's been keeping me busy, that's for sure.
And we're getting there, though. I think that it's finally starting to mellow out a little bit, and it sounds like we may have football for the most part in the American full stadiums and all that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. And, we got a lot of buzz, obviously, locally with UCF, getting ready to get the Gus Malzahn, the Gus Bus regime started. And, Cincinnati will, of course, be the defending champions going into conference play. It should be pretty exciting. And, it'll be great to have a full bounce house and have the greatest atmosphere in college football upon us again.
I can't wait. Roger, you got something for Jeff real quick here?
No, Jeff, just welcome back. I'm very, very happy to have you back. And like you said, it's going to be very interesting for UCF this year. The Gus Bus has roared into the station and starting to leave it, at least from the recruiting aspect of it. So, begs the question how UCF football will do this year. So I'm curious, knowing that Memphis lost several people and, we've been taking advantage of the transfer portal, as have they and SMU. I'm really interested to see what you think. How does UCF perform in AAC football this year with the influx of talent that we've received?
Well, I can tell you what, and I have to be completely honest that, when we're looking at the regime change, when Danny White and Josh Heupel left, I was very excited about the Terry Bahadger hiring. Initially, I was not excited about Gus. Just had a little trepidation there, thinking, well, he's just going to come here for the quick fix and be here and gone. But then, it's the same scenario we get with the up and coming coaches, as we have well seen here. So initially I was not, and then after the first press conference, it's like, okay, I see something here. I see a twinkle in this guy's eye. And I think he's looking to prove something in a major way. And the fact that we're getting all these great transfers in, and we're not just talking 3 stars, we're talking 4 and 5 star transfers, and we're talking about a coaching staff that's got a nice mix of veteran and younger guys. And obviously, we already have a great offense in place. So, to me, if the defense is 50% better than it was last year, we're going to make a lot of strides. And I think it's going to be better than 50%, honestly. And man, I just can't wait for it. I think it's going to be tremendous. I think UCF is going to rightfully reclaim their place atop the conference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had the exact same feeling, it sounds like, as you did. And I think a lot of people did with Gus and the announcement of that. At first we were like, oh my God, Danny White's leaving. And then, Josh Heupel leaves and we're like, uh-oh, it's not really the right time to do this. It's kind of a bad time. But once Gus got up there and started talking, and you just felt like he said, and you felt like it when he said it, that he was refreshed and this was going to be a completely new thing for him. And he was really, really excited. You could tell. And he was the first person that I heard of when this whole thing happened. He was the first name that popped up on like conversations and through the back channels and everything else. His name was the absolute first name. In fact, even before Terry Bahadger was brought in by UCF for the athletic director, Gus's name was already popping up out there, even for the athletic director position, believe it or not. And that may have just been because somebody knew how excited Gus was to even have a chance to be at UCF, period, whether it was a coach or an AD or whatever. His name popped up like immediately. So I wasn't shocked when it happened. I was definitely a little bit worried about it when it was announced. But then, like I said, after that first press conference and you saw the glimmer in his eye and he started talking about how excited he was, I'm fully on board. And he's done what he says that he wanted to do so far. I mean, with the billboards, with everything else, he's done quite a bit. The transfer portal is insane what he's doing. I can't wait to see some of these guys play.
I find it very interesting too that, having that rush, that excitement, it was lacking a season ago, and obviously COVID played a part of that. But the season did not go as well as we had hoped for the Knights, and we're starting to see that freshness and that like we did during the Scott Frost era, just that high energy and you see the billboards, you see the excitement as people talk about the program. And, I guess, the Charge on tour this year looks like it's going spectacularly well. And it is just so wonderful to see. And it's like, man, I cannot wait for the end of August. It just...
Well, it's funny that you guys brought up the infamous night that the Gus rumors solidified, because Andrew and I were actually on the podcast, recording the podcast at that time. And it was funny because we were talking about it and live. And if you go back and listen to it, it's like the exact moment when we found out. And I was like, my initial reaction was very, very, very like, no, we don't want to go with the retread. And then Andrew was actually the how should we say this? The cooler head,
the voice of reason.
Yes, the voice of reason. Exactly, he was the voice of reason that night. But it was very interesting because I had the same reaction. Like, please let's not bring in a retread. Let's bring in someone who is going to keep that young, up and coming kind of offensive mind going. But I do feel like, and you guys have mentioned it, the transfer portal is a big part of what is going to be Gus's success, and he's really taken advantage of that name brand that he has out there. Now, one of the new games in the AAC in general and in college football is the transfer portal. We've kind of mentioned it. We've stocked up. Memphis and SMU actually lead the conference. They have 11 and 12 transfers respectively.
And SMU has made a living off of doing that.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, not just this year. I mean, they've done really well as far as
Tulsa has as well. Those guys live on transfers too, and unfortunately, that hasn't boded well for us. That being said, looking towards the future, the next wrinkle that everybody's going to be looking at is the NLI. That's coming up pretty quickly. You have the Supreme Court. How does that inject itself into the AAC? Florida obviously has said, after initially saying, well, maybe we won't do this, but they said they're going to move forward with this. So there's legislation in the state of Florida for NLI. Not all of the states in the actual conference have NLI legislation. So does that give us a competitive edge?
I would definitely think so. And, when you look like, when you look at people like Mackenzie Milton leading the charge for the athletes in college football in the state of Florida, I think that's a big advantage for us. I think that helps, unfortunately helps the cows a little bit. But the states that are moving forward with that and are being progressive in that area, I think that's definitely going to spark a big advantage.
Well, Jeff, I'm going to go back to UCF and football. Who are you looking the most forward to seeing out of this transfer portal section of people, since we're on the topic of the transfer portal? Of the people that UCF has brought in on that, who's the person that you're most excited about?
Well, I think I'm having a brain fade at the moment. We were just talking about it before we went on the air. Our new defensive end,
Big Cat Bryant.
Big Cat Bryant. I am anxious to see because I think getting that pass rush will be the biggest thing that'll help our defense, because we're now going to be very young in the secondary, where we were very experienced before. A pass rush will help a young secondary in play. And to get a guy like that with that kind of motor, and you look at that, if we get the kind of pass rush we had when Shaquem was here, I think that is going to be a big, devastating blow to the rest of the conference.
Yeah, that secondary is getting older by the minute, though, especially with the guy that they are bringing in now from Auburn as well, Marco Domino. I don't know. Domino. I don't know how to say
Damio,
it. Damio, whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll hear his name said.
We do names well on this show.
You know that, yeah. It's always been that way, and it's fine. It's kind of the way we do it. But with a guy like that, and then with the defensive player from Kennesaw State that they've brought in,
Bryson Armstrong,
yeah,
linebacker.
Exactly, yeah. Linebacker, not a secondary. I mean, however you consider that, but still, a lot of guys back there that are going to be new faces and faces that we didn't even see in the spring. All these transfer portal guys, really, we didn't see except a couple of the ones that were already here that we just didn't see last year. But all the new schools.
Yeah, and you look at the schools, obviously, besides, picking guys away from Auburn, but you get a guy like Brandon Johnson from Tennessee, Jordan Johnson from Notre Dame, Hercule Latou from BYU. I mean, you look at some of the schools that we're getting guys from Bowser's from Northwestern. So we're getting a Big Ten guy coming in. This has become a very attractive destination for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, and Bowser, I don't know if you've heard me talking about it the last few weeks and on the radio show, but I am extremely excited about him. I've always loved the Big Ten running backs. They're like kind of the cream of the crop because that is a running league more than any. If you look at like the Wisconsins and teams like that, they've always had really good running games. And that guy's a freaking bruiser, and I cannot wait to see him play in a UCF uniform. I just want to see him, really in the uniform. Even I'm just excited because he's like a bulldog. He's not the tallest guy, but he's a big dude.
Yeah, and you figure with Bentavious Thompson back there, who's got some good size, and if we run the ball like an SEC type, a Big Ten type, that's obviously going to be predicated on how our offensive line plays. But it'll be fun to see that kind of have a little bit of smash mouth mixed in with all the exciting things we do on offense.
Absolutely, yeah. Roger?
Yeah, I can tell you this. I mean, when we're talking about the bringing transfers in, it's also the level. All of these guys, or just about all of them, are 4 stars, or even in in Johnson's case, it was a 5-star. So, as we're bringing these guys in and from all these different schools, it's impressive. But we're upping the talent level of what's expected. We're not transferring 2-3 stars here. We're talking about legitimate 4 and 5 stars, top 50 in some cases in their position when they came out of high school. So, for the AAC, I know other people are doing this as well. But when I look around and I see what Gus is doing as far as the star level that's coming in, and again, that's not necessarily indicative 100% of the time of how they're going to perform. But in general, that means that they have the tools to be really, really successful. So, when we start going up and you see the Tulsas of the world and the Cincinnatis of the world where we didn't have a good running game up the middle, that's going to it helps us in that manner because you've got people like Bowser who can lead the way. But on top of that, we're upping the tight end game, our defensive backs, our D-line, all the different areas that we were worried about for last year. So, I think one of the advantages that UCF has right now in the league is we have a brand name to match our brand name, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's a great point because I was just thinking along that same line. And you look at the fact that, not only do we have, the branding of the Gus Bus, but you look at all the work that's been done over the last few seasons, so all the work that Danny White and Scott Frost and Josh Heupel have done have really elevated our brand. And you look at the facilities we have. I mean, we have a Power 5 vibe to us that a lot of schools don't. So that does increase our attractability in the transfer portal by leaps and bounds over a lot of schools.
Yeah, so we're getting transfers that are 4 and 5 star, and we pick up a couple 4-star recruit, actual high school recruits every once in a while. We got the kid from Hawaii that's coming in. I don't know about any other ones, but I think especially if we were to get one 5-star guy, and it doesn't happen a lot in the American. It's only happened once in the G5 with the kid that was at Houston.
Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver. Yes, thank you. I just feel like if we could get one, the floodgates could open. If, some kid decided, he believes in Gus, he believes in UCF, maybe, I don't know, maybe he has an issue with even an academic issue or something. Maybe he can't get into the school that he particularly wants to, but gave UCF and Gus Malzahn a chance. I think it would really, help things out. Because Ed Oliver, I don't know the story of exactly how that happened at Houston, but, it did lead to better recruiting at Houston, I believe.
Oh, yeah, there's no question that did. And not only did it lead to better recruiting, it led to a better product for the Houston Cougar football team, too.
Well, I mean, that's basically what you're talking about there, Andrew, is what happened with Dante Culpepper, right?
Yeah.
He was that guy. He was Mr. Florida. He had someone we had no business in getting. He had some great issues, but he was the number one football recruit, and he went down in history here and had a promising NFL career as well. And at that time, and people forget that because the star rankings really didn't exist, but we were getting top 25, top 10, top 5 receivers, et cetera, in the Krzyzewski era. So, once the star ratings kind of came into play, it kind of readjusted expectations and ceilings, kind of like the playoff. But what I will say about the playoff that's different now for us today, even if it doesn't expand, from what I'm reading, Gus is basically selling the fact that, hey, listen, there's only 6 New Year's Six Bowls. UCF has been to 3 of them. No other Power 5 teams, unless you're like the big name brands, so like the Ohio States of the world, et cetera, Alabama, LSU, those type of folks, you're not going to get to those. There's actually an easier path at UCF. So what I've heard is he's turning a negative into a positive on the recruiting trail, and he's utilizing that and saying, listen, there's only 6 teams that are going to have that experience. If you want to have that experience, UCF has been there 3 times, and that's way more than any other Power 5 or most of the other Power 5 schools except the top 1 or 2. So he's actually utilizing that as a way to attract recruits here, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's great that we have a little bit of a track record to work with, right? And, when you look at, again, I think the fact that that's probably what got Gus excited was that, okay, I'm not just picking a team that I've got to lift all the way from the bottom all the way up. This team is Power 5 worthy, and this is going to be just such a great opportunity for me to take. Because you got to be figuring. He's looking at his chops and he's like, wow, I've got a stud quarterback. He's going to be one of the best in the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that Gus has had a quarterback of the quality of Dylan Gabriel for quite a while there at Auburn as well. So we'll see what he does with the tools that he has.
Yeah,
that's
he was OC when they had Cam Newton.
Exactly. So. Yeah, that was one of the things, and one of the things that people have kind of been down on Gus about is developing quarterbacks. So I don't know how much more you can develop Dylan Gabriel, but we'll see. I guess post Dylan Gabriel, we'll see what happens with that situation. We've got a couple of guys that are pretty good there behind with Navarro and I can't remember the other guy's name now. Mikey Keene is the other guy. So we'll see, and I think that development needs to start during this season, especially with Mikey Keene. I think would be the guy. I don't know if Parker Navarro, especially in the spring, Mikey Keene looked so much better. So I think is the time to develop him during this season if you can. And a lot of us clamored last year for Dylan Gabriel to come out in some of those games, especially if we were up by a lot and he was still out there. We wanted to see whoever the backup was, and we didn't really see the backup at all last year. Very sparse.
Yeah, that's like an epidemic with football coaches, both in the college and pro level. The tendency to leave their starters in at the quarterback position in games when you can clearly take them out. They seem to be a little hard-headed about that.
Well, and I think a lot of that is kids and teams want to pad their stats a little bit. So, when the other team is weak and tired, you can really pad those stats and get, yards and plays and everything else.
And I do know that in today's football, a 3-possession lead is no longer a safe lead anymore. When you stop and look at it, those are overcome more often than not.
Absolutely,
we've proven that time and time again. Unfortunately,
yes.
Kind of switching gears a little bit back to the league. This is something that I'm very interested in getting your take from, because you have a much, as Andrew mentioned, your pulse is definitely on the league more than both Andrew and I. There's been this talk lately of the playoff expanding, right? And how do we put the AAC in the best position to be able to, maybe earn a auto bid or at least get a G5 auto bid? And as a byproduct of that, Mike Oresco came back out. Milk Carton came out and actually said something. He said, he was talking about expanding to 12 or 14 teams, which the messaging as of late last year was, hey, we're good. We don't have to make a choice. We'll get an exception with the NCAA. Do you think that's positioning for the playoff? And there was some noise about Boise lately again. What's your feel on that? Do you feel like that's what he's going after? And if so, do you think that Boise or any other schools are close to joining or thinking about it?
That's a good question. To me, you can definitely feel there's some momentum coming towards expansion. Is that going to be 6? Is that going to be 8? I think there's still some question about that. But let's say it's the scenario of 8, and you're looking at a couple of you're looking at the power, the Power 5 obviously having their hooks into that, and a couple of opportunities that are at large. Is the American the best of the group of 5? And I do hate all this G5 P5 terminology with a passion. The American has certainly set itself clear and above the rest. Had they done it enough to earn the respect to get that? I don't know, because I just always feel like the Power 5 still looks at the rest of us with disdain. So I think in some respects, it does need to be 12 or 14 in order for us to get our lead to get an auto bid. Ultimately, I don't hear this one talked about very much, and of course they'll never go for it because the Power 5 certainly would rail against it. But it's too bad we couldn't have all 10 conference champions in a playoff. The Power 5 would certainly be, the top 5 seeds in that scenario. And, you give in the 1 and 2 get a bye. To me, that would be the best playoff scenario that you could put on the table.
Well, I've said the entire time when they started this playoff even is why not do it like they do all the rest of the divisions in college football? Besides the FBS. And I know it's bowl games and all this other stuff. You can make bowl games playoff games, just like they've done with the 4. They could make all the bowl games playoff games. We just saw the FCS do it again. I mean, they had a short season, but they still produced a great tournament at the end of their season. I watched it intently. I mean, I love FBS or FCS football.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
I think it's really great football, and every team going into it at the beginning of the year has a chance to be in that championship game if they win enough games at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'm not one normally for hot takes, but I would argue that the FCS, the top teams in FCS, would be very competitive in the bottom part of the G5.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's not a hot take at all. if you're an FCS football watcher, I mean, you know that, because absolutely they are. You've seen North Dakota State, I don't know how many years, go out and kick a Power 5 team's butt. And there's other ones that have done it as
Madison's done it.
Absolutely.
There's certainly some great football to be had. And again, they actually have a playoff system, and
it's perfect. It works perfect. There's not a lot of controversy. There's nothing like it, being an absolute invitational like the 4-team playoff is. I just don't understand, and I guess I do understand, but I don't totally understand it. I understand the money part of it and the bowl game tie-ins. But
I don't know what the Power Five is afraid of, because if you look at March Madness, everybody gets an opportunity at that table as well.
Every other sport.
Yeah, and what? By and large, at the end, who are standing? The best teams from the biggest conferences.
Right.
Well, let me say a couple of things to that. First of all, Jeff, I enjoyed your Tijuana Flats hot take of the week. But secondly, wanted to get Tijuana Flats in there. But secondly, I think actually the byproduct of what you were seeing was the bowl system and trying to protect the bowl system. However, that dynamic has changed, and here's why. The bowl system now is at a point that they're not in the playoffs. So a lot of these top-rated players, and you saw that last year, are just opting out of the bowls altogether and are just going and preparing for the NFL draft. So I think that,
if they were real playoff games, though, they wouldn't do it.
That's my point. So I think what's doing is now you have a driver from the bowl system, as well as, instead of trying to protect it, to promote them and keep their survival for the bowl system and the money that's paid out from those bowls, because that's all revenue for the P5, generally speaking, right? Because we only get them one New Year's Six bowl. So I think that's a driver to expand it into a playoff and include them as playoff games, as playoff sites. So that's what I think is different this time around.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're some of these bowl games, I would think you would definitely want to have a playoff matchup instead of, pairing 2 6-6 teams.
Yeah, well, we figured it all out here. I don't know why the NCAA can't, and the Power Five and ESPN especially. ESPN produces all these FCS games when they're in the playoffs. They're all on ESPN. They haven't figured this out.
They own the majority of the bowls.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, 41. They own 41 of all the bowls.
Yeah. So why can't we extend this out a couple of weeks? Shorten the regular season. Shorten it by a couple of weeks, extend the bowls for a couple of weeks, but make those bowls mean something. Make it a real playoff. Put all, I don't know how many, 24 teams I think are in the other ones. Maybe 16. It's either 16 or 24 that are in all the rest of the conferences or all the rest of the divisions or whatever of college football. I think it's crazy that they haven't done this yet. And I think that's the way to do it, is include those bowl games. So we figured it out. So hopefully
we just need to be made the czars of college football.
I guess. If we can figure it out, though, and they can't, there's a problem with the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they can't figure it out without ESPN's blessing, because they're fronting all the money for this, right? So they've got to make sure that they can return the ad spend on it, and that's where they're making their money. So if they get more eyeballs, they should be able to charge more for that ad time.
But who wouldn't watch that? Who wouldn't watch all these bowls that nobody watches? There's tons of them that nobody watches. There's tons of them that nobody goes to.
Well, I don't watch the playoff. I watch the games that we're in for the New Year's Six and the AAC season, but that's it. I don't watch any of the rest of the playoffs. I have no interest in watching something that we cannot be a part of.
Right. And that's
predictable every year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I watch them just because I want to watch football. I want to watch what's left of football at that point. So I watch them. I watch as many bowl games as I can. I'll watch the ones, on the Tuesday afternoon if I have a chance to. I have no problem. I just want to see football at that point. So,
well, I agree with you on the bowl games. I'd rather watch those because they're true exhibition games, right? But when you're talking about the NY6 games or the playoff games, I have no interest in contributing to that at all, because we don't have. The only thing we get out of it is the payout that we have to share, which is, again, lopsided in the P5 versus G5. So all it does is make me angry that they keep us out. And I don't want to watch that. So I'll watch the Gasparilla Bowl or whatever, Idaho Spud Bowl or whatever, but I will not watch the playoff games.
Yeah, well, that's your choice.
And again, and going back to the point of why hasn't all this been done yet, because everybody else has figured it out, is because these Power 5 schools do not want to share their money with everybody else. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, and there's been talk for years of them breaking off and making their own thing. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the best thing that they do that and let the rest of college football have an actual playoff. If they want to do that, if they want to go on and make like a new professional league is basically what they would do. It would be sponsored by colleges at that point if they really wanted to do that. I mean, it's becoming a pro sport more than anything anyway, especially with the name, all that stuff.
Name, image, and likeness.
Right. Yeah. It's becoming and then the transfers, it's free agency. How much longer is it even going to be amateur? I mean, what really is amateur anymore?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't see...
The way the Olympics define amateur is that nobody gets paid.
Yeah. Well,
so
eventually that's going to change too.
Yeah.
And I think, I just don't know that as much as the Power 5 would like to break away, I just don't know that it's feasible that they can break away.
If it was feasible, I think that they would have already done it.
Well, remember, guys, they get a tax shelter right now is the way the current system is set up, right? So you've got the Alston case that's hanging out there with the Supreme Court that's going to be a part of that. But until and you've even seen members of U.S. Congress in the last couple of years try to get involved in college football, et cetera. But realistically speaking, unless they get rid of that tax shelter, I don't see them breaking off and creating their own thing. Plus, the networks need the content, right? So in order to sell the ad revenue, to have the networks, all of this other stuff, the ACC network and all that, for example, the Big 12, I think they have, 10 teams? So, they play those out of conference schedule games. They're not going to play them against other Power 5 teams. Because they don't have an even distribution of that. And if they don't have an even distribution, they're basically limiting how many games that they can make money off of. If they put a brand like Alabama against, Alabama A&M or something like that, that game, it may not be an SEC conference game, but it's still going to draw a lot of eyeballs, and that's ad revenue for ESPN or Fox or whoever is broadcasting the game.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, but everything always comes down to money. That's really the bottom line, isn't it?
Yep, that's what this is all about. All right, well, we've gotten way off of what we, I guess, originally set out to talk about here. What about the other sports in the AAC? Quite a bit of action with baseball still going on, just ending up.
Softball this weekend. 3 American teams got to their regional championship game, and all 3 had to win twice and could not win once today. UCF was blanked by Florida State for the second time. Florida State's really, really good. South Florida lost to the Gators in the Gainesville Regional, and Wichita State got destroyed by Oklahoma 24-7.
Wow.
That game just ended a little while ago. So, tough way to go out for the conference. Nobody getting to the super regional, and Tallahassee's like a house of horrors for UCF softball and baseball. It doesn't seem like we'd ever get out of there.
Absolutely. Well, what's baseball looking like? I mean, it's the American play is getting ready
starting Tuesday.
Yeah.
East Carolina's the top seed and most likely going to be in the NCAA tournament. UCF's a 5 seed. They're going to play the first game against Cincinnati 9 a.m. on Tuesday. East Carolina will face Memphis, and then Tulane is the 2 seed taking on Houston, and Wichita State is the 3 seed, and they'll play the 6 seed South Florida. So a busy week for conference baseball. And that'll be interesting to see if, again, I think East Carolina is a given. But, Tulane's had a really good season. They were at one point leading the conference standings for just a little bit before East Carolina took them down in the series. UCF lost a series to them recently, so they're really, really good. And East Carolina has not always won the conference tournament, so that's kind of been one of their bugaboos. So could whoever win the conference tournament get into the NCAAs? That'll be a significant question to see what happens there.
All right. Well, we will see what happens with that. Any other AAC tidbits you'd like to throw in here towards the end?
Well, it was great to see UCF get to the Sweet 16. They beat James Madison in the first round, but then they got rolled by Pitt in the second round. Are we all getting to dislike Pitt quite a bit?
Yeah, men's soccer you're talking about, right?
Yeah, men's soccer. Yeah. And tennis. UCF did very well in the women's side, getting to the round of 16. They got a couple players in the singles tournament. 4 teams made the round, lost in the round of 32 in men's tennis. And outdoor track and field, Houston, they've got a great track and field program. They won both the men's and women's championships. So those are just some of the nuggets from around the conference, if you will. All
righty. Well, Jeff, thank you very much, man. We won't take up much more of your time. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you doing the AAC report for us on the Knightline Sports Network. And you have your own podcast as well. Why don't you give a little shout to that real quick and let everybody know where they can find that?
Sure. It's Jeff Allen Sports Talk. It's a weekly podcast, general sports talk. I'll do a lot of different things on that show. And you can pretty much find me anywhere you get your podcasts and your favorite online content.
All righty. Thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Guys, always a pleasure. I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app for Knightline at Night. Brought to you by Chad Bar Law. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Knightline at Night, every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong, spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right, back with you on Knightline. Thank you for listening. What's next, Roger? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think we're going to be charging on with the Charge On Tour, so let's start there.
I wish I had a sound effect for that. I need something.
You could do a wah because my jokes are usually pretty terrible.
I have one of those. I just have to. I don't really have it set up for this show. I have it set up for the other show, but for the radio show. But I don't. How about this one? Maybe not, but
no. I think it's more of a wah kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I need something like that, or a cymbals and a bass drum.
Exactly.
I'll figure something out like that. Go ahead.
All right. So first things first, word leaked out at the Charge On Tour in Fort Lauderdale that FAU was going to sign a home and home with UCF, and it's clear that they did that. So FAU actually came out shortly thereafter and announced it. UCF did not announce it, but FAU did, and they do have a home and home. And there's also another game.
You know why they didn't announce that?
Why is that?
Nobody cares. It's not exciting. Who cares?
I agree.
Although, is Willie Taggart still there?
I don't know.
Is he still the head coach there?
I don't know.
If he is, I mean, that's the one good thing about it is we can, whoop his butt again. I don't know.
The bus game, the bus versus the bus.
Didn't we go down there a couple of years ago?
We did.
Yeah. So now we get to play him. That was not a good experience, I remember.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about trying to get through the gates and all that other stuff.
It was horrible. It was hot, and there were thousands of people standing outside the gate trying to get in. They had no idea that we were going to bring that many people. So I guess it's a good opportunity for them to for Mr. White.
Yeah, Taggart is still the head coach down there,
and Danny White's brother. So it's a good opportunity for them to show that they can right the wrong, I guess, of what they did to our fans the last time.
Well, hopefully they learned, right?
And
because
it'll be
at
an
the
easy
end of the
win
day,
for us as well.
Yeah, and we bring a lot of people. Hopefully they they continue their tradition of burning nitro in their ceremony or whatever they're doing down there in FAU land.
They built an effigy and burned nitro, if you don't remember. I forgot about
Which,
that.
I don't know, is that a sign of respect at this point, that we're getting to the point where they actually, an opponent is so excited about us being at their stadium that they burn an effigy of us?
I think that was a little low class on their side, to be honest with you. They thought that, maybe they could, I don't know. Isn't that like a pagan ritual or something like that?
I don't know, man.
They were trying to bring juju on their team, I guess, or I guess it's cool that they made it that big of a deal, that they thought that UCF was that big of a deal. I don't remember the score in that game, but I think we whooped them pretty good.
We did.
I don't think it was even close, was it?
I don't think so either.
I'm going to look that up while you continue.
Okay. They also stopped by
48-14, yeah.
There you go.
Their juju was not good. 48-14 over them. Yeah. They scored 6 points in the second. They scored 8 points in the fourth. So garbage points against us, garbage time points, and like 2 field goals or something. Yeah, not good.
Well, like I said, I hope they do it again because clearly it reverse jujued them.
Yeah.
So the other thing that came out of that from a scheduling perspective, there was two quick things. One, Terry Mohajir actually alluded to the fact that there is another contract out on the table that is with a more exciting team that fans would be excited about, but he was not prepared to talk about the specific team because he had not gotten the contract back yet. So look for something to drop soon on there. Don't let Mike Oresco know, or else we might get Arizonaed again. The other thing that's interesting is that TMO and Gus both said in their South Florida stuff that they're having a much tougher time than they anticipated signing people to games. Imagine that.
Signing other
nobody
schools
wants to play. Yeah. Nobody wants to play UCF.
Shocking.
I think they're getting a quick, a very, very fast education in how tough it is to be in UCF's position when it comes to scheduling. because we're good. So,
we make teams look bad.
Exactly. So that was a very interesting comment that came out of there, and it's definitely different than what you heard when they first came in. So I think there's a little bit of a reality check going on there. But the main crux of the discussion I really wanted to talk about was the topic of facilities. So rumor has it, and it's a little bit stronger than a rumor, that some folks at the event said that Terry Mohajir was surprised at the lack of the...
Is there a quote?
There's not a quote, not a direct quote,
Okay.
because this was sidebar discussion on one-on-ones that people were having.
Oh, okay.
But basically, he said that he was surprised at the lack of the quality of our facilities. So there's also some talk about a $200 million fundraising campaign to help with that. I mean, he did work in ASU a lot on facilities. He got them a multi-purpose IPF, which for ASU is great.
What's that?
But Arizona State University, the IPF, indoor practice facility.
Arkansas State.
Or Arkansas State. I don't know why I said
Indoor
Arizona
practice
State.
facility. Okay, I didn't know what you were talking about. Just making
sure. So basically he got the school to buy in too, because in between 7 and 10 p.m., like the students can use it for, flag football or whatever sports that they do that are organized by the school. But at the end of the day, I mean, he pretty much said that he was surprised. And I know Gus said that he wanted to do some facilities upgrades because he's trying to attract 5 stars from the get-go, not just in the transfer portal. And he wants to compete there. So obviously we need to upgrade our facilities from a perk standpoint. But I'd like to just really, talk about that really quick and talk about our impressions of what we think. I know I've been to a bunch of different schools. You've obviously been to Kansas. I don't know when the last time was that you were there. You've been to Maryland because we both saw each other on that trip.
I've been to a lot of football stadiums, though, when I played. I mean, I've been to many, many football stadiums.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, from a football perspective, a baseball, etc. So what are your thoughts around that statement?
Well, first of all, if you go to Arkansas State's website and you look at their facilities, they have a specific section about their facilities and their locker rooms and things. What I'm looking at is like, I mean, they look like NFL style locker rooms and facilities. If these are their actual facilities and they're not just, they look like renderings to me. So if these facilities are actually built, they're beautiful. I mean, their football facility, locker rooms, they have like all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I mean, they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, does that offend you that he says that about our facilities? Is that offensive to anyone? I mean, because I thought our facilities were fairly decent. I know that our locker rooms and all that, but they just built a brand new football operations building between the indoor practice facility and the building that they already had. They just built the whole new cafeteria thing, nutrition center. They just built the education center on the other side of the stadium. I think we're still building a lazy river. I don't know. I'm not sure whatever happened with that. But
it's still supposed to go.
But their locker rooms, if these are real, if they're actually built, they're insane. And maybe that's what he wants. But does that, I don't know. I never really cared what the locker room looked like as a football player. It wasn't that big of a deal. Now, to the kids these days, I mean, I'm 48 years old, and we were lucky if we had a chair to sit in locker rooms, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I played in one of the oldest stadiums in all of college football, Kansas Memorial Stadium. Our locker rooms were not pretty. Water leaked and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they were really ugly. They've been upgraded, I think, at this point. They built a whole new practice facility with turf fields and all that stuff that we never had. So I just wonder if this is what recruiting now has come to, and it probably is with the younger kids these days. They're very concerned with that, I guess. I think our football stadium is better than their football stadium, for sure. I think our arena is better than their arena. I don't know what their football stadium was like before he got there. I know that was his big thing. I mean, he knows the Kansas locker rooms as well, very well. And he knows the offices, that they had at the time. So maybe this is why facilities are such a big deal to him is because, when he was a grad assistant coach there, he knew how crappy of facilities that we had at the time. And maybe that's why this is, a big deal for him. I don't think our facilities are that bad. I would much rather have, I guess as a fan, a better stadium amenities, I guess, which they've worked on quite a bit here with the cabana and all that stuff. And I mean, I know that, they put in the east or the west side club as well. It would be nice to walk all the way around our stadium. I know that. That would be nice to have a concourse where it wasn't, cut off for a club in the middle of one side of it where you couldn't walk through at all. I don't know. I mean, if these things are what is recruiting kids these days, go for it. It's his job to raise the money. So if Gus and him don't believe that our facilities are adequate to get the type of player that we want, absolutely bring it. But put your money where your mouth is. I don't know if that's a good idea for a guy that's new at a school to go kind of dogging their facilities. Unless that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to stir the pot. So people, our facilities aren't good. Well, all these giant donors that we have some. If those guys will throw up a bunch of money, which it's kind of hard to do, and especially in the climate and everything right now. But if that's what he's trying to do, if he's trying to ruffle feathers a little bit, maybe that's what he's done. You know what I'm saying? So it may be a great ploy. It may be a great, he's probably like, they're reacting to me saying that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I tend to.
I wonder
agree
who
with...
he said that to, and how big of a donor they were.
That's a good question.
Because the people that he really needs to be saying this to aren't just the normal Joe Schmo that goes, to games and goes to the Charge On tour and stuff like that. He needs to be saying this to the big donors. In fact, he needs to find some more big donors. You know what I'm saying?
See, but to me, I
think
would
there's
totally,
other stuff though.
I would totally tackle this differently. If I were him. Number one, yes, you want to lean on your big donors, but the reality is UCF hasn't been around long enough to have the Tillman for Tatas or all that stuff, right? So at the end of the day,
bring a corporate sponsor in.
Well, that's
we
part.
Still have
we don't
stadium naming rights.
That's what I was
going to
say. We don't even have that yet.
Use some of that money. The SpaceX deal, that was a great freaking idea of Gus. I don't know. Nothing happened with it, obviously, yet. But that Gus is a smart dude with the things that he's done already, just as the head coach. And maybe that's why, his name was rumored at one point of being like, the AD. Maybe that's one of these days will be a good job for him because he's a smart dude and he knows how to do stuff, it seems like. And the tweet that he sent to Elon Musk, with his rocket taking off at our 50-yard line and all that, that'd be awesome. I would love that. If he could get somebody like that, if they could get a corporate sponsor behind all this stuff, that's the way to do it, since we don't have the old donors yet, you know?
Well, the way I would actually approach it a little bit differently. I think what UCF Athletics doesn't do a good enough job of doing is we have 325,000 plus alums, right? We're putting out somewhere between 15 and 17,000 per year. Okay, that's a whole lot of people. We don't need a big donor to say, hey, I'm going to plop 5, 10, 15, $20 million down. What we need is to be able to stratify and tap into those individual donors and tell them, listen, we only need this group to give us $75 or this group to give us $300 or whatever to make this happen. And if he's going out and saying those things, right? If he's saying things like, hey, we know in getting ready for a $200 million campaign, he better have a way to be able to fundraise that way, because I hope he realizes the type of school that we are. Our average alumni is dropping. We're the only school in the country where the average age of the alumni is actually dropping. And the reason for that is because we're pumping out so many alumni, right? And so if you do that, you have to find a way to tap into them. It's not about leaning on older alumni. And so I hope he has a plan around that, because if he is going to drop the $200 million, the one thing, and Danny White did a great job in focusing on the shareholder society members and developing that program, and, you know, tapping into some of the big time donors. You know, the Garvey Nutrition Center was a big, that Recovery Cove is funded by donors. You know, part of the football ops was, you know, the soccer remake was a donor, you know, so he was tapping into some of the donors. What he didn't do was a good enough job was to tap into the alumni base. He hadn't cracked that nut yet. And if Terry Mohajir thinks he hasn't figured out how to do that, then he's going to be in a world of hurt if he's going to try to raise $200 million. But he better have a plan before he starts leaking that stuff out there. Now, back to the facilities conversation. I think our softball facility needs an upgrade. I think our baseball facility needs a new scoreboard, because it only works half the time because the company that made the parts is out of business and we can't get parts for it. And it's sad to see that. You know,
whatever
I think
happened, they were supposed to put the old scoreboard from the football stadium. Remember our old scoreboard from the
I remember
they were supposed
that.
to put that over in the baseball stadium, and that never happened, I don't think.
Correct. It never did happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, they got to solve that. Our basketball team, you know, there's a facility that they wanted to build that needs upgrades to be able to compete in the AAC. The AAC is a pretty good basketball league, and Houston just opened up a new, completely new facility for their basketball team. Memphis did the same. Cincinnati has pretty good facilities. So again, we're not a basketball power. We haven't been around forever. However, we do need to have some upgrades there on the facility. Is there a need, or would it be nice to upgrade? Absolutely, to continue to compete. That being said, we have what we need. We were the first school in the state of Florida to have an indoor practice facility. UF didn't get one. I think they're still building it. UM's just finished, and it's a 50-yard facility. It's not even a full football field. We've always built what we needed and then upgraded as we've gone along. So when you do that, you put your money in individual parts. Like our weight room, our football weight room just got redone, and it looks great. We have 2 locker rooms instead of 1, so they're splitting the cost in between the 2 to upgrade them every time. So there's contingencies in here that I just don't think he's aware of. And you know, when I look at other people, I went on a college tour. You've heard me reference that before. I went to Clemson. I went to Auburn. I went to a bunch of different places. The difference was the niceties. They had functionally the same thing we did. And I would argue our weight room's nicer than Auburn's. And our IPF is at least on par with Auburn's. Now, it's the difference is the finishes. When you went to their cafeteria area, it was all mahogany wood and, Auburn, blah, 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 emblazoned everywhere.
Is that what high school students want, though, now? Is that what incoming college freshmen want? They want mahogany and leather and like TVs at their lockers and all that stuff?
I think they like barber shops. I mean, if they're looking at UCF versus someone else, I think they like the fact that they have a barber shop. And like our football ops building, it looks nice, but it doesn't have the amenities that they were originally going to put in it.
I mean, have you gone to their website, Arkansas State's website, and looked at their locker room?
Yeah, I did. I did that while we were talking.
You've seen like NFL locker rooms and stuff. That's what this looks like to me. And if that's, what will get us the 5-star players, then by all means, do it. I guess if that's what it takes. I just don't know. I guess. I don't know. I guess it's been so long since I've been a freshman in college. That I didn't really care. I don't think at that point. Maybe this is what it is these days, though. Like.
I don't know. I'll take our arena over that. When I look at the
arena's nice.
Yeah, it is but it's not as nice as ours. No. And then you look at their
Fill
football
our
field.
Arena first.
I agree with that. I agree. That helps pay for the practice facility that we're trying to redo and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking at I know his big claim to fame was to build their football ops building, and yes, it's nicer. They have a waterfall from the looks of the picture that goes along the side on one of the club areas. Okay, great. We are trying to put 50,000, the maximum number of people in our bleachers is what I'll call them, in our stadium, as we possibly can. We don't have the room to do that because we don't have 20,000 fans and half of a football stadium. As it is, we're trying to maximize the capacity that we have in there and then the club areas. Okay, then, we don't really have an easy or cheap path to add on to that. Arkansas State is a mature program. They don't have that problem. If anything, we're going to have to expand. And our stadium was only built to last another 15 years anyway. So he's going to have to consider that. But I do think there's opportunity. I don't think it's a $200 million renovation that we need. I do think our baseball stadium needs a better signage. I think our softball stadium needs to be upgraded. I think those in the Olympic sports need some help.
Have we outgrown the bounce house?
No. We're just now not quite yet, but we're on the cusp. If they keep winning and we have this consistently, remember, it's about trying to maximize the space that's there because then you can drive prices up.
Arkansas State, by the way, was established in 1909. So they have old donors.
Yeah. I think the difference for us is, I don't know if you guys remember that. Well, I'm sure you do, Andrew. I know it was a topic of conversation on the podcast years ago, but we had two problems. One, fill the stadium. Two, raise the prices because the costs were too cheap to go to a UCF football game. So what did we do? We added club areas, and that increased the price. As we have more and more people in there, that creates scarcity, which means they can elevate the prices to what they should be for our level, right? Then you can start and doing it consistently. We haven't done it consistently yet. We've been sold out of the stadium for like 2 years out of our entire existence. So if we continue to sell out, and we're pretty close to this year, then it has to make sense to add. There has to be demand there for 5,000 or 10,000. Before COVID, there were 5,000 people in line waiting for season tickets that had signed up. That's the first time that's ever happened. So if that continues, then yes, we've grown out of the stadium, but we've got a while to prove that.
Yeah. Well, obviously this will take some time. I would be interested to see, what I'd love to see what their ideas are. I haven't been in our locker room at UCF recently. I know that it doesn't look like the one at Arkansas State does.
No, they upgraded it recently too, the game day locker room. But yeah, you're right. It's not as nice as what Arkansas State's looks like from their pictures.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see, I guess, what the student athletes want, I guess. I mean, if they want an NFL locker room, I guess give them an NFL locker room. But he's going to have to work really hard to get those dollars. So he needs to figure that out, I guess, and that's his job. I mean, technically, that's his job to raise money. And
I just hope he's got a plan and he's not just putting talking points out there, because it feels like when he came in, with the whole that and Gus, and I'm sure he talked to him about that. It will play anyone anywhere kind of thing, and then he figures out, oh crap, it's not as easy at UCF because it's in this weird space.
I think he's going to run into the same thing here with this.
Exactly.
It's not that easy to get money out of the alumni.
I mean, most of them are still borrowing.
Yeah.
That's the prime borrowing age. They've got young kids, everything else. They don't have that kind of money. They're not further enough in their careers.
The situation would be better if they were able to come up with some massive corporate sponsorship. Disney.
Well, they had one, and then the Florida legislature blew it up.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to choose your. They may have not chose that company very wisely. Do your research and choose a company that the Florida legislator doesn't hate. Or whatever. I mean, that's always been kind of a weird business. I mean, but they have those type of businesses. Isn't the one that is now the field's named after or whatever? Isn't that a roofing company now? It's a different one.
It is. It's a roofing company, but it's not.
And it's owned by UCF alumni.
Alumni, correct.
Which is cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just, if he wants to do that, then he should do it and figure it out, because that's his job. So I wish him the best in that. I don't know if that's a good idea to go saying stuff like that, though.
Not unless you've got a solid plan around it and how you're going to do it. And I don't think he does.
And have the donor to back it up.
Right.
Like, I know that John Giuliano put a ton of money into that baseball stadium upgrade. And, I mean, it looks
and John
great.
deserves all the credit because
Absolutely.
it needed help. So, I know John and I interact on Twitter every once in a while. He absolutely, there aren't that many
I've
people
talked to
that
him
are
a bunch
willing
of times. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And that was an awesome thing they did. I think they need to do more, obviously, with that as well. I mean, like you mentioned, the scoreboard. There's a lot of things that could be a little bit better. So I just hope that Mahajer, if that's what he wants to do, and I mean, Gus has a bunch of money. How about Gus donate some money? How about Gus donate his salary? You know what I'm saying? Because he's getting paid by Auburn $23 million. He's not. It's chump change what we're paying him. So how about he donates some money for these new facilities?
Well, I know we are not paying him what he would normally get paid.
Well, I know, because he made $23 million,
Yeah.
$23.6 million or whatever on his freaking buyout. So he has tons of money if he wants to talk about it. He can put his money where his mouth is. Anyway, all right. Well, that's something that we'll have to look at, and we'll have to watch and see what happens with that. Has he really come out with his own campaign yet for donors, for donor money?
No, but he was talking about it. This is the kind of thing you don't put out there until you're ready to put it out there, but he was clearly talking about it in these meet and greets.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
I think, it'll be super interesting. I don't know how Arkansas State and their fan base is, if it's, they don't really talk about this kind of stuff. They don't have as large of a fan base, but At UCF, you start talking about things like that, and word gets around pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, that was probably exactly what he was trying to do. So we'll see.
It'll
I'm
be
not
interesting.
completely sold on Terry Mahajer yet. Gus has done more than Terry Mahajer has since he's been here.
Oh, that's
honestly.
for sure. Other than bring Gus.
Yeah, but Gus could have been coming here anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
It sounded. I heard Gus's name before Terry Mahajer's name
I agree with that
in
too.
this entire thing. So I don't know if he deserves all the credit for that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All the best, obviously. I mean, I want him to do everything that he possibly can to make UCF better. I'm not completely sold on him yet. I want to see him actually do something, especially with that, because it seems like it's a big deal. I know it fired people up on the message boards.
Yep, it did. It fired me up a little bit. It's like, come on, bro. You need to realize the boat you're captaining here before you start tearing it down. And if you're going to tear it down, provide a fix. And I don't know.
And he talked about
that.
how great it was and how anybody would want to come here and this is a job of his dreams and all this stuff. So, okay, well, I feel a little bit taken aback by him saying that our facilities suck. I mean, maybe he didn't say they suck or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like, then do your job and fix them if they're that bad.
Well, the messaging is improvement. Don't say they suck. You know what I mean? Or you say, hey, we're shooting for 5-star, and I want to give my coaches to.
I don't know.
I know
That's
you
why
are.
I was like, is there a quote? Because I wanted to.
But even if it's a negative
actual quote,
even if it's a negative connotation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're doing things like that, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is make sure that you're putting something out there and talk about growth or whatever, right? We want to be able to compete for 5-star players. So we want to take our facilities and make them into 5-star facilities, right? And we're going to do that one chunk at a time. And here's the plan on how we're going to do it. And we need your help, right? That's one way of saying that.
We'll see.
Having a sidebar.
I think he needs to. Now is about the time because it's the right before football starts. Like now would be the time I think to start. Whatever it is that he. I mean, what's his major campaign for donor money? Like, I think he just
$200 million is a big chunk of change. We paid less than that for the entire athletic village when it was built. Now, granted, that was a while ago,
right?
But
right, huh? Interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Now, again, this is what people have reported back from those conversations in those gatherings. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Multiple reports, though. I mean, this wasn't just one person that he said this to. So, I mean, that's obviously his thing. And that was his thing that he was known for there. It was getting money for facilities. So
that and placing students in jobs. Those were his two major things.
Yeah. And I think the latter is probably more important, to be honest with you.
And I think he
like
will
that.
follow through on that. I absolutely do. I just don't think he realizes the challenge that he's got ahead of him if he wants to do $200 million in upgrades.
Yeah. Well, corporate sponsorship, I'm telling you. Disney. Or somebody like that. Somebody that's just got cash overflowing. Elon Musk.
Well, Disney doesn't right now.
Well, they still do. I mean, that company is in no trouble. They've made billions of dollars.
Well, they've made the money back now, but they definitely had to tighten their belts for sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
trust me, I'm a stockholder. I know.
Right, but they're not going to be in any deficit.
No, I mean their stock has bounced back nicely,
yeah.
But at the end of the day, and they actually did in our stadium. They did have a few pieces here and there of promotional items within our stadium as well.
Yeah.
If you noticed that,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
But yeah,
I still don't think that market that relationship has been tapped the way that it should be.
I agree with you there.
Like for all the years Like, what better of a sponsor to have than the hometown, thing that everybody knows Orlando for?
Well, it's not only that, but UCF pumps a ton of graduates over there and out of their hospitality school. And UCF has one of the best hospitality schools in the entire country.
Right, because of its location and the entertainment business that's here. So why not tap that relationship with those companies and make, the whole thing a big love fest? You know what I'm saying?
A big money love fest.
Exactly.
Give me your
That's
wallet.
What I'm talking about, though. Like, look, we support what you're doing. We are Orlando. You're Orlando. That's why people come here. It's the number one reason why people come to Orlando is Disney. It is. And the other theme park. Not as much the other one, I don't think. But
I agree.
But still, I just think they should leverage that. They need to get together. That's just me.
You're saying Terry needs to get in the mouse's pocket and say,
absolutely.
"Hey, give me your wallet."
If I was the AD of UCF, and I needed to raise a bunch of money to do all these things I wanted to do, to bring 5-star players in here, I would go straight to Disney and be like, "Look, let's make a deal."
So here's the only problem you're going to have with that, having worked there before. Their headquarters is in California. All their executive team is there.
That. I mean,
and the guy that we had, remember the 2017 season and everything that happened with the parade and all of that, that was because of a guy named George Kalogridis, who was a UCF alum, and he was in charge of the entire Walt Disney World. He's moved on to other roles within Disney. We still enjoy a good relationship with them, but that park specifically can't make decisions for the parent company, and the parent company doesn't have the relationships that park does.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. It's different because it's its own business, but it can't make business decisions like that because Disney is super, super protective of its brand. I mean, to the point where their financial institution can't even be called Disney. It has to be called something else.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, there's other ones. Lockheed Martin is pretty big here.
Harris Corporation. Just look at.
There's Amway. There's lots of different companies that are from around this area.
I say we go all in on space.
It could be Olive Garden Stadium. It could be the Olive Garden.
I'm not buying that one.
It could be the
Breadstick Stadium. Oh, goodness. I'd like something like...
Why don't we have a Darden restaurant that has food that is
I agree with that
from, as concessions? I mean, we have...
Well, we did have Four Rivers for a while. Well, they're still in concessions. I think they're still in concessions.
Well, I got
they
news
have
for everybody. Four Rivers is not nearly as good as people think it is. Just so you know. And that barbecue that comes out of the stadium is really not that good. I had some at the spring game, and I know it was just the spring game. But, man, it was bad. It was really bad. I'm a barbecue guy, so... Yeah,
I was going to say, can you put that asterisk on there for everybody so they understand?
Well, speaking of barbecue...
And I'm not saying it's great in the stadium. I'm just saying
the best barbecue in Orlando, period... is now I can't think of the name. Mission Barbecue, right by the not far from the stadium, over there.
They're out of Maryland.
They are, but that is the absolute best barbecue in the area, no question. Coming from a barbecue aficionado, a barbecue snob, some say, that is the best barbecue around. I'm not saying it's the best barbecue in the country by any means, but I'm saying that is by far the best barbecue around.
Well, I am the beer snob. You can be the barbecue snob.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's a Four Rivers and something else beer in Orlando as well.
Well, I just stick to the stouts. I don't like the IPAs. That's Ben's realm of the universe over there is the IPAs.
None of the good stouts come from Orlando, I can tell you that.
No, not one.
All right, what else do we got? Oh man, I almost forgot about the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, time for the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Roger, go ahead.
Well, last week I talked about UCF women's tennis will make it to the semifinal of the NCAA championships this year. That turned out to be a hot take because, unfortunately, they were one set away. But great job by the ladies. I will say this for this week's Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. My hot take is that our men's basketball team will make it to the second round of the NCAA tournament next year. I truly believe in the roster that Johnny's put together. He said a lot of it of this year's underperformance was due to COVID and discontinuity within the team because of other teams not playing and a bunch of other things. And I believe him. With the talent that we have coming back and the talent that's coming in, I do believe we'll make it to the second round of the tournament next year.
All righty. Well, I'm going to go football, and I'm gonna take the same thing that I said on the radio show this week, and that is that one of our players from our defense this year, because I think our defense is going to be really good. I think our defense may be one of the best defenses that we've had at UCF in quite a long time, and I'm going to say one of our defensive players will be the Defensive Player of the Year for the American. That's my take, and I hope that I'm right. I hope that comes to fruition because I really want our defense to be good, and I think with the coaches that we have and the players, that, especially in the transfer portal and stuff that we've gotten with our veterans as well, one of them, I'm not going to say who, but one of them will be the Defensive Player of the Year for the American. All right, so that's it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, time for news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, starting off with men's tennis. Men's tennis went down on the last set to Mississippi State in the NCAA regional. However, we did have 3 men's players competing in the singles. Gabriel DeCamps and the doubles, Trey Hillebrand and Bogdan Pavel, that starts today.
Great job with those. That was a tough couple of names there. So I'm going to try my best as we move along. Number 9 women's tennis advanced to a Sweet 16 by defeating the U 4-1, which was great news. However, they did lose in the last set to Duke after coming all the way back and forcing the last set. In singles play, number 32 Rebecca Stolmer ended her career with a loss today against Georgia's number 55, Leah Ma. Meanwhile, Valeria Zaleva, number 22, lost to Virginia Tech's number 9, Natasha Subash.
All righty. UCF softball lost 0-2 to
UCF.
To FSU in the championship game of the regional, beating Auburn and Kennesaw State. After beating Auburn and Kennesaw State, Aaliyah White earned her 99th win against Kennesaw State and was just the 3rd UCF pitcher to throw a shutout.
All right, UCF men's soccer lost to number 2 Pitt 4-0.
Yeah, we knew that. The Knights track and field team placed 5th in the AAC championship and 1 spot above the Cows, thank goodness, to earn the final War on I-4 points for the year. Rayanna Jones was named the American Conference Freshman of the Year. She set a record for the meet and the 100-meter hurdles with a 12.76 time. Asher Collins also won the triple jump with a freshman record of 42 feet 11.5 inches, I believe is what that's supposed to say.
It does. Matt Lee was recently named the number 9 center in the country by the analytics experts over at 247 Sports.
All right. Meanwhile, Cole Schneider was named the number 17 offensive guard.
That bodes well for our offensive line. Mike Hughes went to Andrews Chiefs and will be paid, and will be paid a base salary of $1.825 million, while the Vikings will cover the remaining $1.34 million owed to him from his signing bonus. So congratulations, Mike Hughes.
And a Chief. All right, lastly, the D1 Council adopted temporary emergency legislation to adjust the men's basketball recruiting calendar for July 2021, opening the doors to more recruiting opportunities. So that's good. A good thing there. Get back to the recruiting type things that should have been going on this entire time that were not. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Knightline 256. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold, charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. B-S-E-T-O-R-Y tonight.